Winter is supposed to be quiet. The snow buries everything. It silences roads. It hides what shouldn't be there. But beneath that silence, something waits. In the woods. Under the ice. Just outside the cabin you thought was empty. Cold doesn't just kill. It watches. These are 3 very scary, true winter horror stories, from people who went looking for peace and stillness in the snow. And found something else. So zip up your coat. Don't wander too far from the fire. And if you hear something moving in the snow, don't follow it. I saw someone watching me from beneath the ice. Every winter, Ron, this retired guy from northern Minnesota, would go ice fishing alone on a frozen lake just a few miles from his property. He'd been doing it for years. Same spot. Same portable shack. Same quiet routine. He liked the isolation. Said it helped clear his head. This happened last December. It had been colder than usual. The ice was thick, and Ron set up earlier in the season than normal. He drilled the hole, got the heater going, and settled in for the first real fishing trip of the year. Everything was normal, until the 3rd morning. He arrived at his shack and noticed something strange. Fresh footprints in the snow. Bare feet. No shoes. No socks. Just human footprints, narrow and deep, like someone had slowly walked from the tree line all the way out to the shack. And they didn't lead away. Just to the hole. Then nothing. He looked around. Nothing but snow and silence. No wind. No animals. Nothing out of place. He figured it was a weird snow melt illusion. Maybe a prank. He even laughed a little, shook it off, and went about his day. But the next morning, it happened again. Same tracks. A fresh trail. Same bare feet pacing toward the hole, and stopping there. This time, he noticed something else. A single handprint, on the inside wall of the shack's plastic window. That night Ron didn't sleep. The 5th morning is when it got bad. He was inside the shack, pole in hand, watching the water through the hole. The ice had fogged up slightly, but he swore he saw movement beneath the surface. He leaned in. And that's when he saw it. A face. Pale. Blurred. Pressed against the ice from underneath. Eyes wide open. Mouth moving but no bubbles. No breath. No distortion like someone swimming. Just watching him. Frozen still. Ron says he didn't scream. He just backed up slowly, packed everything into his sled, and walked away. He's never gone back to that lake. And every time someone jokes about it, says maybe he just imagined it, he stays silent for a second. Then asks, why were the footprints warm enough to melt the snow? The cabin wasn't empty when we got there. This happened to 2 couples, Jake and Lauren, and their friends Megan and Rob, who rented a remote Airbnb cabin in Colorado for a New Year's getaway. It was supposed to be quiet. No parties. No cities. Just snow, games, and the kind of silence you can only get above 8,000 feet. They arrived just before sunset. The cabin was beautiful, 2 stories, big stone fireplace, creaky floorboards, and that kind of warm, woodsy smell that feels like winter. But even from the first hour, something felt off. There were little things. A mug in the drying rack. A pair of old boots by the back door. The faint smell of wood smoke, even though no one had used the fireplace yet. Jake made a joke about the cleaning crew being lazy. Rob said maybe the owners lived there part-time. But then the noises started. That night, around 2 a.m., Lauren heard what sounded like creaking overhead. Not wind. Not pipes. Footsteps. She woke Jake, who listened for a while, then got up to check the 2nd floor. Nothing. Everyone else was still asleep. The next day, they all noticed more strange details. A hairbrush in the bathroom sink. A half-used candle that hadn't been there before. A small pile of melted snow in the hallway, like someone had tracked it in. That night it got worse. While everyone was playing cards downstairs, Megan paused and said, "Do you guys hear that?" A slow, rhythmic humming coming from upstairs. It stopped the moment they acknowledged it. They checked every room. Nothing. Every window locked. No sign anyone had been there but them. The last night, Lauren woke up and couldn't breathe. She said she felt pressure on her chest, like someone was sitting on her, but when Jake turned on the light, no one was there. And then, they all heard it. The creaking. Above them. In the attic. But here's the thing, the cabin didn't have an attic. There was no ladder. No access panel. Nothing on the ceiling. Just the sound of footsteps, slowly circling. They packed up before sunrise and left without even cleaning. On the way down the mountain, they called the Airbnb host to ask about it. The host was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You stayed in the Wilson place, right?" Jake confirmed. She said, "That property's been pulled from listings since last year. We stopped renting it out after the sheriff found squatters in the ceiling. The road vanished behind us." This story comes from a father and son who were driving through rural Montana in the middle of a snowstorm. They were heading to visit the father's brother for the holidays, nothing unusual. But the storm hit harder than expected. Wind, zero visibility, and thick snow building up faster than their wipers could clear it. They were miles from the nearest gas station, so when they saw a small, unmarked turnoff that looked plowed, the father took it. The idea was to pull over, wait it out for a bit, maybe let the storm pass. It led into a narrow forest road lined with trees so thick the snow barely touched the ground beneath them. They parked in a small clearing. Engine running. Heater on. Trying to keep the windows from frosting. It was dead silent. No passing cars. No wind. Just the soft ticking of the engine cooling and the storm rumbling far away behind the trees. They waited about an hour. When the snow seemed to lighten up, the father decided to turn around and get back to the highway. But the road they came in on? Gone. Completely buried, or worse, just not there. Where there had been a visible path, there was now only forest. Thick trees. No tire tracks. No break in the snow. Like the road had never existed. The son panicked, but the father kept calm. He turned the car slowly, following what little memory he had of the angle they entered from. And that's when the knocking started. Not on the windows. Not on the doors. From underneath the car. A slow, deliberate tapping, like someone knocking from beneath the chassis. The father put the car in drive. Nothing. The wheels spun but didn't move. They weren't stuck in snow. It was like something was holding them in place. The son looked out the foggy rear window, and screamed. He said he saw footprints. Dozens of them. Bare feet, circling the car in a perfect ring. But there were no people. And no signs of anyone nearby. Just snow. When the father stepped out with a flashlight, the prints were gone. Like the snow had never been disturbed. Finally, after what he swears was almost 2 hours of nothing but silence and cold, and the feeling of being watched, the headlights hit something, the road. The original one. They didn't ask how or why. He just drove. When they finally reached his brother's house, they tried to show the photos they'd taken of the clearing. But every one of them was black. Not corrupted, just solid black. As if the forest hadn't wanted to be seen. Winter has a way of hiding things. It erases tracks. Muffles sound. Makes the world feel softer, safer, quieter. But that silence? It's not always peace. Sometimes it means no one can hear you scream. Sometimes it means something is moving just beyond the tree line, without leaving a trace. And sometimes it means the place you thought was safe was never meant to be found again. Each person in these stories thought they could escape into the cold. But winter doesn't let go so easily. Because when everything is buried beneath snow, no one remembers where you disappeared. Have you ever been in a winter storm and felt like you weren't alone? Heard something outside your cabin that didn't sound like wind? Seen prints in the snow that shouldn't have been there? If you've experienced something strange in the cold, a shadow on the ice, a voice in the trees, or a road that shouldn't exist, tell us in the comments. Because your story might be the one that explains the next disappearance. And if you're planning a trip this winter, keep your car full of gas, your fire burning high. And whatever you do, don't follow the footprints.